Oral questions, questions orales. The honourable member for Oxford.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government is the most expensive in Canadian history. The more they spend, the more things cross. Their so-called generational budget is nothing more than generational debt, mortgaging away our children's future. Massive Liberal deficits feed inflation. Inflation fuels unaffordability. Our seniors can barely buy groceries. Our families are stretched thin, and our workers are falling behind. Yet this Prime Minister, he still wants them to make more sacrifices. Can the Prime Minister tell us what more is left for Canadians to sacrifice?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, this morning brings outstanding news of tens of thousands, in fact 69,000 new jobs in Canada. The second straight month of employment growth in this country. What's happening, as the Minister of Natural Resources informed us yesterday, is investors are piling into Canada. They're expressing confidence in our country. The entrepreneurs, the tech sector, young people are getting energized about this positive economic momentum. We're going to keep it going with this budget. I hope the Conservatives support us in it.
The honourable member for Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, this Brookfield budget has the largest deficit in history outside of COVID. The interest payments are topping $55 billion, more than what we spent on healthcare transfers. This means less for doctors, less for nurses, less for our hospitals, but more for bondholders and Liberal insiders. The only thing that's getting healthy under this government are the bankers' profits. They keep getting rich while Canadians foot the price. So can the Prime Minister tell us why he is so hell-bent on making sure his banker buddies get rich while Canadians suffer?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
I think it's worth repeating. The economy has added 67,000 new jobs, Mr. Speaker. 67! Even the Conservatives are happy this morning on a Friday, Mr. Speaker. Look at their face. They are smiling because they're going back home and they have good news. Not only in the budget, Mr. Speaker, there's hundreds of pages of good news, but this morning they can say that the plan of the government will build Canada strong because what, Mr. Speaker? We believe in Canada.
Honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Only a bunch of Liberals would stand up and applaud an unemployment rate of 7% when the United States unemployment rate is 4.2%. This is the most expensive government in Canadian history. In 10 years, they doubled the debt, and now they're going to pile on another $78 billion. Meanwhile, 2.2 million Canadians are going to the food bank. The softwood lumber industry is being devastated. The auto industry is being devastated. Is there a Liberal over there that can stand up and explain how they've spent so much money to accomplish so little?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
67,000. That's how many new jobs were created last month. 20,000 of these jobs were for young Canadians. A clear sign that our plan is working. In Canada, 1 in 5 jobs are related to trade. From small businesses to major exporters, Canadians are driving growth and creating opportunities. In Budget 2025, we have a plan to support our entrepreneurs, our workers, our exporters, as we build the strongest economy in the G7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Once again, how do they stand up and applaud an unemployment rate of 7% when the United States unemployment rate is 4.2%? It's actually like we're living in some kind of dystopian universe where they do this. The facts are this. A softwood lumber industry is being hollowed out. 2.2 million Canadians are using the food bank. The auto industry is on its knees, and they stand and applaud a 7.1% unemployment rate. They have spent more money than all governments combined in the history of Canada. How can they applaud when they've spent so much to actually accomplish so little?
The Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Speaker, here is something to applaud about. We created 67,000 new jobs last month. That's right. Mr. Speaker, this is about building an affordable nation for a nation of builders. This budget does just that. We are building affordable housing for young people. We are creating 100,000 new summer jobs. And Mr. Speaker, we are investing in the tech sector. 800,000 workers, fastest growing job sector in the economy, many for young people. I hope the Conservatives, and many of them do, support this budget.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent Achiowin-Rock. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have presented the most expensive and deficit-ridden budget in Canada's history outside of the pandemic. Nearly $8 billion in deficit. $80 billion. Mr. Speaker, a deficit means spending money we don't have. A deficit is a bill that we send our children and our grandchildren. A deficit is adding fuel to the inflation fire. Why is this Prime Minister spending more and uncontrolledly without focusing on inflation? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very proud to inform my colleague that over the past month, the Canadian economy added 67,000 new jobs. Because with their help, if we support the 2025 budget, we will unleash the power of the Canadian economy by building big projects like the container for the Port of Quebec, and I hope he'll support the economy so we can build the strongest in the G7. The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent Achiowin-Rock. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, I'm not proud at all of the figure I'm going to cite. 2.2 million Canadians have to use a food bank. That's the Liberal track record. And of these 2 million, 1 out of 3 are children. We're talking about 700,000 children in Canada that have to use food banks to eat. Mr. Speaker, but I love Canada too much to see this. Why is the government continuing to rack up deficits? We're talking about $80 billion. We know deficits are just debts we're sending to our children, our grandchildren. Canadians deserve better than this. The Honourable Secretary of State. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This budget invests in our children. It invests, it requires funds so we can create jobs, so we can renew purchasing power for all Canadians. That's what's important. That's what we're doing. Canadians are hoping for this, and I hope that my colleagues will support this budget, which will give power back to all Canadians. The Honourable Member for Côte-Nord, Kaukowicz-Miach, Nitassinan. Mr. Speaker, there would never have been a confidence vote on the budget today if the Liberals had worked in the interests of Quebecers. But here we are, unfortunately. We're here because they refused to negotiate in good faith. Despite their minority status, they rejected Quebec's request for health care and infrastructure, as well as the needs of seniors struggling with the cost of living, or those of young people who would like to become homeowners. Why did they prefer to orchestrate this confidence vote instead of responding to the needs of Quebecers? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, we have great trust that Quebecers have seen in this budget investments in culture. They trust this. They trust in our investments in housing. They trust in our investments in military to create jobs, in Davy, and in aerospace. They trust the Liberal Party to protect their language and culture and Radio-Canada. Here in Canada, we're investing in our language and our culture. And in Quebec, and in the Quebec specificity, Quebecers have expressed their trust in this budget. The only question that remains, will the Bloc do the same? The Honourable Member for Côte-Nord. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers did not vote Conservative, and yet this is a Conservative budget despite its Liberal deficits. Health care cuts, mass layoffs, climate capitulation. These are Conservative ideas. The government leader even confirmed this in the House on Wednesday, indicating that this is a budget that Conservative voters can love. And it's working because there's turmoil in the Conservative ranks. They identify with this budget. Why did the Liberals choose to court the Conservatives instead of listening to the demands of Quebecers? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we are very proud to have 44 members from Quebec at the House of Commons, the largest amount. And we are here to support Quebecers. Quebecers asked us for funding for health. We did this with hospitals, emergency rooms, and doctors' clinics. We also had the support from Quebecers for support of French language and culture. We've invested in this, and Quebecers, what do they want? They want jobs. And this is a budget that will create jobs. The honourable member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, in the past, the Liberals made budgets to please the NDP, and now they're doing so to please the Conservatives. But they never make budgets to meet the needs of Quebecers. What Quebecers want is a health care system that works. They want to be able to grow old without losing their purchasing power. They want affordable housing. They want young people to be able to buy a home like previous generations did. And that's what we're seeing in Quebec. Why are the Liberals threatening elections instead of meeting the needs of Quebecers? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask my colleague, when he talks about housing, we're massively investing to build housing in Quebec. He talks about health. Quebecers want infrastructure that's of quality, and we have this in the budget. And they talked about jobs. We have a project across Quebec to develop our resources and create opportunities for young people. He talks about purchasing power. There's a tax cut for millions of Canadian, $800 per family less. So what do Quebecers want? They want a responsible and ambitious budget, and that's exactly what we're delivering. Thank you.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister proposed the worst budget deficit in history outside of the COVID period. Every dollar he spends costs Canadians in their taxes and through inflation. More spending by government means more sacrifices for Canadians, with more than 1 in 4 Canadians now living in financially insecure households. Will this Prime Minister at least consider reducing his deficits to levels that we saw under Justin Trudeau?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, what's remarkable about this budget is that it builds for the future, but it helps people today. This is a budget that cuts taxes for 22 million Canadians, saving families up to $800 a year. It makes the National School Food Program permanent, helping over 500,000 kids. It delivers automatic federal tax filing for 5.5 million Canadians. It invests in housing, it invests in infrastructure, and it lowers the barriers to make the Canada Disability Benefit more accessible. If the member opposite truly cares about affordability for families in Canada, he would come on over and vote for this budget.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, I know it's difficult for some members of the Liberal caucus to understand, but parents would actually prefer to be able to afford to buy food themselves for their kids. And they used to be able to before these Liberals took office. Latest numbers today show that more than 1 in 4 people in Canada are living in a financially insecure household. More than 1 in 4. That is the legacy of this party. It wasn't this way before. It doesn't have to be that way again. When will they change course?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, these Conservatives think they know best, but they are actually ignoring the experts. They're ignoring the Coalition for Healthy School Food, who calls this budget a great step forward to support children and youth in Canada. They're ignoring the Heart and Stroke Foundation and the Breakfast Club of Canada that also applaud our commitment to making the National School Food Program permanent. The Conservative Party needs to listen to the experts, listen to Children First Canada about why this program makes a difference and why 500,000 families across the country are going to benefit from it.
The honourable member for Leduc-Wetaskiwin.
Speaker, speaking of experts, according to Fitch Ratings just yesterday, quote, Canada's proposed budget announced in Parliament on November 4th underscores the erosion of the federal government's finances. Persistent fiscal expansion and a rising debt burden have weakened its credit profile and could increase rating pressure over the medium term. Mr. Speaker, this has happened before with crushing impact on Canadians. In the 90s, after similar rating pressure, the Liberal government of the day was forced to cut 32% from federal health and social transfers over just 2 years. Does anyone over there understand the gravity of this situation?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, as somebody who spent much of his life in the banking community, let me tell him about the S&P and Moody's ratings, which are AAA, the best in the entire world. The best in the entire world. We have the second lowest debt in the GDP, Mr. Speaker. We're doing just fine.
The honourable member for Leduc-Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, ratings are always great until the day they're not. Here's a quick review of the early 90s from Reuters. February 1994, quote, Liberal government brings down what it considers to be a tough budget. It nonetheless has spending rising slightly, an immediate public and market reaction as it did not go nearly far enough. January 1995, quote, a biting editorial in the Wall Street Journal headline, Bankrupt Canada, calls Canada an honorary member of the Third World. The next month, the Liberal government was forced to make the most vicious cuts to healthcare and social programs in Canadian history. Who over there is willing to take a stand to avoid a repeat?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, Budget 2025 includes generational investments to rebuild, rearm and reinvest in the Canadian Armed Forces, and it starts with our people. This budget includes a $2 billion historic pay and benefits package, which will impact close to 100,000 forces and their families. Untrained sailors, privates and aviators are receiving a 20% pay raise. That's what's in our budget. That's what's at stake. All members of the House should come together to support our forces as they help build and keep Canada strong.
Honourable member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, while Canadians are being forced to choose between heating and eating, this government has chosen to increase our national debt by $80 billion. Can this Prime Minister please explain how driving up the debt and increasing the cost of living is going to help the single mom skipping meals, the senior afraid to open their hydro bill, or the young family priced out of their new home? Or is this just continued economic theatre from a government that's completely lost touch with reality?
Yes. Well, Secretary of State for Seniors.
They are fighting for youth, but they plan to vote against a national school food program.
What?
They say they are fighting for families, but they plan to vote against a middle income tax cut.
Wow.
They say they are fighting for workers, but they plan to vote against a $75 million apprenticeship training fund. They say they are fighting for our borders, but they plan to vote against a much needed pay raise for our service members in our armed forces, including in my riding at CFB Esquimalt. Canadians want to know who these Conservatives are fighting for, because it certainly is not Canadians.
The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Speaker, after 10 years of Liberal inflationary deficits, working Canadians have never had it so tough. People lined up at food banks and parents putting beef back on the grocery store shelf were desperate for something in the budget to bring prices down. Did the Prime Minister scrap hidden taxes on food? No. Did he scrap the 17-cent fuel standards tax? No. The Prime Minister heard the cries of working Canadians, and what did he do? He scrapped the luxury tax on private jets and yachts. That's right, the only measure in this budget to make things cheaper will only apply to boats and airplanes. Can the Prime Minister tell us how many Canadians lined up at food banks will benefit from the private jet tax cut?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
What Canadians want is a government that will invest in their futures and invest in their possibility, and that's exactly what we've been doing, Mr. Speaker. 67,000 new jobs added this month, Mr. Speaker, 2 months in a row where we're seeing unemployment go down. And what's great about this, Mr. Speaker, is youth unemployment is going down. So the investments we're making are working. This is a budget for young people, for seniors, for families. They're going to vote against things like dental care. They're going to vote against things like child care. That's what families need, and that's exactly what this budget delivers.
Member for Regina Capel.
Really wanted to give workers a break, they'd scrap the industrial carbon tax that their American competitors don't have to pay. Now we all know who this budget really was for. It was a Brookfield boardroom budget. After all, the billions in extra debt means bankers and bondholders get big interest payments, and now when those board members go out to buy a luxury private jet, they get a big tax break. A Gulfstream G600 is currently listed for $63 million. Can the Prime Minister tell us how much a Brookfield executive will save with the private jet tax cut, and how much more Canadians will have to pay when food prices go up?
I'm sorry, pardon.
Sorry, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Housing and Infrastructure. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Most Canadians do not live in a pretend world. They know there is no tax on food. They know which party always vote against affordability, against dental care, pharmacare, childcare, basically anything with the word care in it. But most importantly, Canadians know that our government is there for them with a budget that will protect jobs in critical sectors like auto, steel, aluminum, lumber, build affordable housing and the infrastructures our communities need all across Canada, empower, catalyze our economy. So if you're really there for Canadians, you'll vote for the budget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Again, I would remind the member to go through the chair. I can't vote unless it's a tie.
The honourable member for Gaspésie, Les Îles-de-la-Madeleine, Lestigouche. Mr. Speaker, yesterday a report on Radio-Canada revealed lobster smuggling in New Brunswick. It's troubling for people in this region and for everyone in the Maritimes. But the problem is even all more serious because in recent weeks we have heard that at Fisheries Committee that there's political interference in the works of fisheries officers to combat illegal fishing, and even experienced officers saying they're being hamstrung by the Department of Fisheries. How come senior officials in the department are intervening to prevent the law from being enforced? The Honourable Minister.
Unauthorized fishing is unacceptable, full stop. Fisheries officers have many tools that they use in the management of unauthorized fishing, from education to charges to fines. And often their work happens in remote areas and at times of the day when people are not aware of the work that they're doing. And I want to thank the fisheries officers for their outstanding work at keeping our fisheries safe and peaceful. Thank you.
The honourable member for Gaspésie, Les Îles-de-la-Madeleine, Lestigouche. Mr. Speaker, illegal lobster fishing is endangering the species, and that's what worries fishers most. They want to protect this resource so their children and grandchildren can also fish. But we can take action against legal fishing. They just have to enforce the law. That's the only thing that the fishing industry is asking for at committee. They want the officers to be able to do their job without political interference or reprisals. My question is simple, so the answer must be as well. Will this government ensure that its fisheries officers enforce the law? The Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
Assure my colleague that the work is happening, and he needs to just look at what's happened in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and other parts of the country. The fisheries officers are on the water. We support their work. They are making a difference, and we accept nothing but authorized fishing. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Katiskaming, Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, this government is the most expensive in Canada's history. Every dollar spent by the PM comes directly out of Canadians' pockets. The more he spends, the more everything costs. In my riding, producers are seeing their costs skyrocket because of the industrial carbon tax. Everything is going up, machinery, transportation, and it costs more to produce, and food prices go up at the grocery stores. While this PM spends recklessly, families continue to struggle to put food on the table. Why does this government refuse to admit that its industrial carbon tax is a tax on food that we have to pay? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Canadian Culture. Mr. Speaker, clearly the carbon tax on industry is important to keep so we can protect our climate. Nevertheless, the cost of living is our priority, and we are going to work on this. This is a responsible budget to do so, and when will the opposition understand that we have to keep these factors for Canadians, and they should be supporting the budget? The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Sud. Mr. Speaker, it's clear this minister does not understand the reality on the ground because, according to a Nanos poll, 1 in 5 Canadians have skipped paying a bill just to put food on the table. Frankly, this is unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, can this Prime Minister explain to my constituents and theirs why he's stubbornly sticking to this industrial carbon tax while families have to choose between heating their homes and filling their fridges? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Not only do we know that Quebecers support this budget, we know why. Because we're going to deliver for them. Good jobs in my riding, this riding. will ensure that people who work at Alstom will have good jobs, will be able to buy groceries, and will be able to meet the needs of their families. Quebecers also want a good healthcare system. The federal government has continued to increase health. Well, in past budgets, they've increased health transfers, and we're keeping them the same in this one. And we're supporting the construction of hospitals. The Quebec government asked for this, and we've delivered for them, and we're there for Quebec.
Honourable member for Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals promised to spend less but have introduced the largest budget deficit in history outside of COVID. This at a time when 1 in 5 Canadians say they've skipped paying a bill to afford groceries this past year. Liberals had a chance to lower food prices. Instead, they increased the industrial carbon tax on our farms, driving up the cost of fertilizer and farm equipment. Why is this Prime Minister increasing the industrial carbon tax and making food more expensive?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, if that member should take next week and go and meet with her local chapters of the building trades in her riding, I encourage every member to take next week to meet with the locals to understand why they are supporting this budget. From coast to coast to coast, workers are supporting our plan. The Canadian building trades, the Alberta building trades, the IBEW, the carpenters, on and on. They are endorsing the investments made in this budget, Mr. Speaker. The SEIU said it best. Promises made, promises kept. Mr. Speaker, they're supporting the investments because we're building good jobs, good union jobs.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
After 10 years of Liberal government, young Canadians are struggling. They're struggling to afford homes in one of the least affordable housing markets in the world. They're struggling to find jobs in an economy that is increasingly slowing down. And they're struggling just to afford food after some of the highest food inflation in more than 30 years. This budget was an opportunity to do right by the next generation. Instead, the Liberals announced over $300 billion in new debt that will be left to these exact same young Canadians to pay for. How is that ethical? How is that fair? How is that remotely fiscally responsible?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, one number, 67,000 jobs created. And how are we supporting them? We are supporting them by investing in their health. And through Budget 2025, we're investing $5 billion to renew hospitals and healthcare centers, $97 million to recognize skilled professionals faster, and new supports for personal support workers. And Mr. Speaker, don't just take it from me, take it from CMA. They're saying this is a right step in the right direction to support the health of our nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
I have a simple question for the Liberal government. Over the past 10 years, they have doubled Canada's national debt. In that same time, unsurprisingly, they have also doubled the amount of taxpayers' money that they waste paying interest on that debt. In fact, today we now spend $55 billion a year just on interest payments. That's more than we collect in the GST. That's more than we spend on healthcare. And now they want to borrow another $320 billion. Does this government really think that spending $55 billion not on healthcare, not on roads, but on interest is a good use of taxpayer money, yes or no?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We are building Canada strong, and that includes the spaces and places that Canadians go to play, to practice, and to exercise, Mr. Speaker. A healthy lifestyle is preventative medicine, and we are building the facilities necessary right across this country. New rinks, new pools, new field houses, so the next generation of Canadians can have better physical literacy, a healthier lifestyle, and they can connect with their communities in those important places, Mr. Speaker. Why won't the Conservatives join us, build Canada strong, and make sure that every community has access to those facilities, that infrastructure that keeps us healthy and our communities connected?
The Honourable Member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, in my riding, the Bay of Quinte, so many of my neighbours are friends of veterans, family members of veterans, or veterans themselves. It's a privilege then and an honour to be here and representing them. The generational budget introduced by the Prime Minister and Finance Minister earlier this week will be deeply impactful to communities across Canada and to all Canadians. including those like mine that are home to so many veterans and active military members and their families. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Veterans Affairs offer his comments on Budget 2025?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the member from the Bay of Quinte for that question. I also want to acknowledge retired Lieutenant Colonel Skip Simpson from the member's office, both for his service to our country and also for his service to the constituents in the Bay of Quinte. Budget 2025 indeed does represent a generational investment in communities across Canada. It also includes $185 million to streamline services for veterans and their families. I call on all members of the House to join me in acknowledging the service and sacrifice of all of Canada's veterans.
The Honourable Member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Speaker, top executives at the Prime Minister's company, Brookfield, are defying an order of this House to testify at committee about his use of offshore tax havens. This is tantamount to contempt of Parliament. So, will the Prime Minister pick up the phone and tell his pals at Brookfield to comply with the House order, or is he complicit in the cover-up?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the news today was that we created 67,000 jobs. 67, Mr. Speaker. It's great news. We are growing the economy, and the budget 2025, is making historic investments that are going to keep this economy moving for generations to come. Mr. Speaker, why don't the Conservatives stand up and support this investment budget?
Honourable Member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, evidently he is complicit, because here are the facts. The Prime Minister was chair of the company that is Canada's biggest tax dodger. Not only that, he set up investment funds in Bermuda and the Cayman Islands in which he stands to make millions. The Prime Minister has a responsibility to come clean, and to come clean today. How much cash does he have stashed in offshore tax havens?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has a responsibility to help build this country and to create jobs, and we created 67,000 jobs in the last month alone. We have a plan in Budget 2025 to build this country up by building major projects, including in that member's riding and province. We have investments to help support young people in this country, to build up apprentices, to be able to drive this country forward. Mr. Speaker, that is what we are focused on this side of this House, supporting Canadians, creating good jobs, and helping drive this country forward. Mr. Speaker, that's what we're going to keep doing.
Honourable Member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
This government is the most expensive in Canadian history. Every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians. The more they spend, the more things cost, like housing. The Ontario Home Builders Association said they are deeply disappointed with the Liberal budget and that it fails to unlock supply and restore affordability. The government's inaction on housing has put 40,000 jobs at risk in Ontario, and the impact of these losses on the Ontario economy could be $5.3 billion. How can the Liberal budget cost so much but yet deliver so little to Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, Oscar Wilde described a cynic as someone who knows the cost of everything but the value of nothing. On this side of the House, we value investments in healthcare. We value investments in jobs. We value investments in the Canadian Armed Forces, and we value investments in housing. This is irony and hypocrisy on full display when the member stands up advocating for more money for housing before he votes against a budget that has record investments in housing. On this side of the House, we're going to listen to Canadians, make the investments and improve their quality of life. I wish for once the Conservatives could do the same.
Honourable Member for Skeena Bulkley Valley.
Premier Eby says the court decided not to provide Richmond homeowners with notice of the Cowichan court litigation, but the Cowichan lawyers said the judge in the case said the parties were free to provide notice of this litigation to private landowners years ago. This includes Canada as represented by the Attorney General. Canada has been and still is missing in action. Why is the Prime Minister being so quiet at a time when people are anxious about their homes and looking for answers?
Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada disagrees with the BC Supreme Court's ruling and appealed it on September 8th. Further legal clarity is required to address the decision, particularly relating to private property rights. British Columbia, the City of Richmond, Musqueam Indian Band, and Tsawwassen First Nation have also appealed. We will continue to work collaboratively with all parties to uphold the principles of reconciliation, transparency, and legal responsibility to all parties. We remain available for dialogue with the other parties to the litigation throughout this process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
And in the meantime, there's chaos and panic in BC. Everybody's complaining, and everybody's blaming each other. The public is blaming Richmond Council. Premier Eby is blaming the court. And this government continues to stay quiet. That was only the second time I've heard this government say anything about that. The first one was made by a staffer. It's always been the Crown's duty to deal with rights and title. That's clear in the 2004 court case, the Haida court case. Does the Prime Minister have any statements to make to Canadian citizens regarding the Cowichan ruling?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We did make an announcement in September on this, and we remain available to work with all parties to address this matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Richmond Centre Marpole.
Mr. Speaker, homeowners in Richmond are sounding the alarm. The Cowichan court ruling undermines the principle of private property ownership, and many fear their homes and business are at risk. The Liberal government saw this coming and did nothing. No explanation, no reassurance, no leadership, and they still remain silent. Richmond's left in the dark. Families are anxious, investors are pulling back, and confidence in our communities is crumbling. Why won't this Liberal government stand up to defend property rights in Richmond and soon across Canada?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I just said to the other member, Canada has disagreed with the BC Supreme Court's ruling and appealed it on September 8th. We remain available for dialogue with the other parties to the litigation throughout this process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bowmanville, Oshawa North.
Mr. Speaker, Liberals have banned the vast majority of nicotine pouches for sale in Canada, despite the fact that many Canadians use these products to help quit smoking. Canadians just want to go to the corner store, the gas station, wherever cigarettes are sold, and choose an alternative product. Even the Neighbourhood Pharmacy Association of Canada agrees. So when will these Liberals do the right thing? When will these Liberals free the Zin?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, our government remains firmly committed to reducing smoking rates, especially among youth. While nicotine pouches may have a role in adults who are trying to quit smoking, evidence shows they're not risk-free. These products contain nicotine, which is addictive and can harm the developing brain. That's why clear guidelines are in place to ensure they're used appropriately and not marketed or flavored in ways that attract youth. Our priority is protect the health of Canadians and especially our next generation, Mr. Speaker.
For Bowmanville, Oshawa North.
The very same government that likes to push so-called safe supply drugs into our communities now wants to point out nicotine as a problem for adult usage. Mr. Speaker, Health Canada set a target for 2035. They would reduce the number of Canadians smoking to less than 5%. This government should have no excuses for making alternatives to cigarettes available wherever cigarettes are sold, corner stores, gas stations, wherever. The question remains, when will the Liberals do the right thing? When will they free the Zin?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, speaking of young people, the first new medical school in the GTA in over 100 years in Brampton, Mr. Speaker. It's happening with a $25 million investment in Budget 2025. This government is stepping up to support the new TMU Medical School, to train the next generation of doctors in Brampton. This is how we're empowering young Canadians across the country, Mr. Speaker. This is how we build Brampton and Canada strong.
Nice. The honourable member for Red Deer.
Mr. Speaker, under this Liberal government, it's easier for Canadians to continue smoking than quit. Since former Liberal Health Minister Mark Harlan launched his personal crusade against cigarette alternatives, everything we've heard from this government is smoke and mirrors. While nicotine pouches are banned from pharmacies, cigarettes can be bought anywhere. It makes no sense. So instead of blowing more smoke, will the minister finally give Canadians a real chance to quit and free the Zyn?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Mr. Speaker, addiction is a serious issue, and these Conservatives are making it blatantly political, which is wrong, Mr. Speaker. Look, nicotine, regardless of where people can access it, causes addiction to nicotine. These Conservatives should be absolutely ashamed of themselves, Mr. Speaker. We have produced good numbers on nicotine and cigarette reductions, Mr. Speaker. We continue to be there to improve the health of Canadians and make sure that these are available at the appropriate time and never for children. Never for children.
The Honourable
Député de Madawaska-Restigouche.
The Honourable Member for Madawaska-Restigouche. Mr. Speaker, as a proud Acadian and a representative of Madawaska-Restigouche.
Calm down. Fridays are usually quiet. This must be a special day today. The Honourable Député.
The Honourable Member for Madawaska-Restigouche. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a proud Acadian representing Madawaska-Restigouche in this House, I care deeply about the vitality of Francophone communities. Between 2020 and 2024, there was a strong increase in the number of Francophone permanent residents admitted outside Quebec. To ensure the vitality of our communities, this trend must continue. As we celebrate National Francophone Immigration Week, I would like to ask the Minister to explain how the new immigration levels plan will help support the demographic growth of Francophone communities across Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship. I would like to thank my colleague for his dedication. In 2023 and in 2024, we surpassed our target for French-speaking permanent residents outside Quebec. Today, as we stabilize overall permanent resident numbers, we are projecting to take in over 30,000 Francophones per year over the next 3 years, while constantly increasing our annual target for Francophone immigration. That is how we will reach our target for 12% Francophone immigration, and how we will strengthen communities everywhere.
Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, non-citizen Daniel Abraham was convicted for criminally abusing his dog Simba. Abraham repeatedly punched and kicked Simba, tied him to a pole so high his front legs dangled off the ground. Simba couldn't lie down or sit and was left crying and yelping. Yet Abraham remains in Canada with no deportation guarantee. That's disgusting. Why hasn't the immigration minister strengthened the Immigration Refugee Protection Act to make sure non-citizens convicted of serious crimes like Simba's abusers are swiftly deported?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has a robust system of removals and inadmissibility that enables us to take action, Mr. Speaker. I will commit to the member opposite to look into it and get back to her, but what the circumstances behind the incident that she refers to is abhorrent, and I condemn it wholeheartedly, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
The problem is, Mr. Speaker, we have an immigration minister that's so weak, she won't even stand up and answer questions to this. I asked about the Immigration Refugee Protection Act. She won't stand up. So I'll ask again. That case is so disgusting. We've had so many cases like this. Serious criminals, non-citizens who need to be deported. Will she stand up and commit to strengthening the Immigration Refugee Protection Act to make sure that these non-citizens who are convicted of serious crimes are actually deported?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Citizenship, Refugees, Immigration and Refugees and Citizenship.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we are delivering for Canadians every day. This government's highest priority is the safety and security of Canadians. Let me be clear, a foreign national who's been convicted of a crime is inadmissible to Canada. We will work with the IRB, we work with CBSA, we work with CSIS, we work with the RCMP to ensure that we deport anyone that needs to be deported. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hills.
Except for a Pakistani national who was convicted of raping his niece, who came into Canada while being on the UK sex offender list, or Simba's abuser here. This government doesn't take this seriously. In fact, it's so bad, Mr. Speaker, that this week the Liberals admitted that they didn't even know how many criminals, convicted criminals, they gave citizenship to. Wow. Seriously, they put that in an order paper question. So I'll give her one more opportunity here. How many citizenships did the minister issue to criminals in Canada? Because her department couldn't answer this week.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. Foreign nationals who are convicted of a crime are inadmissible to Canada. On this side of the House, we take the safety and security of all Canadians very seriously, and we act. We work with our RCMP and our policing partners in CBSA to ensure that we act in accordance with the law and the IRPA regulation and act. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Mr. Speaker, while many Canadians are looking at the $78 billion deficit number in this budget, many others are, well, concerned about that deficit, wondering about our children and our grandchildren and the growing ecological deficit from lack of action on climate, lack of action to protect nature. We look at this budget and want to weep. Those of us who are grandparents and seniors right across this country, young people, want to know, will this government step up and tackle the generational ecological deficit?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
For a very important question and our advocacy, Mr. Speaker. In the throne speech, we said we must fight climate change, and our new climate competitiveness strategy includes measures to reduce emissions, including by strengthening the industrial carbon pricing, incentivizing investments to reduce carbon, and mobilizing private capital. We're also creating a new youth climate corps, Mr. Speaker, to empower young people in the fight against climate change. We are committed to predicting nature by halting and reversing nature and biodiversity loss through reinforced efforts to conserve 30% of plants and water. Mr. Speaker, let's do that together.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
The Liberals have introduced the most costly and largest budget deficit in history outside of COVID. It'll drive up the cost of food, housing, and everything else that Canadians buy. In Nanaimo Ladysmith, food bank use is up and donations are down, in part because those who formerly supported these services now increasingly need to use them to make ends meet. Liberals had the chance to lower food costs for Canadians by scrapping the industrial carbon tax, but they increased it instead, driving up the cost of everything needed to grow our food. Why is this Prime Minister making food more expensive?
Honourable Minister for Crown and Indigenous Relations.
Jobs, housing, and infrastructure. That's what this budget has, including through our investment and commitment to accelerating the additions to reserve process. In October, I was in Nanaimo celebrating with the Snuneymuxw First Nation the addition of 195 acres. With this, the First Nation is looking to build a 2.3 mixed-use development. 2.3 billion, sorry, Mr. Speaker. That's great housing for youth and for everyone on reserve. That's great jobs during construction and after on reserve. We look forward to working with First Nations to accelerate more additions to reserve. We hope all parties will support this and the budget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont La Petite Patrie. Mr. Speaker, there is a lot wrong with this Liberal budget, But the climate plan has become a sinister farce at a time when our shared house is burning down. No more emission reductions targets for 2030. No more cap for the oil and gas sector. The climate strategy amounts to a few tax credits for critical minerals and carbon capture. So, subsidies for mining and oil companies. How can the Liberals call this a generational budget when it ignores the fate of future generations? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Let us be clear, Mr. Speaker. Our government will continue to fight climate change. We will do this through a whole-of-government effort. In our budget, we strengthen the industrial carbon pricing and methane regulations. We will put in place clean fuel regulations. And if the member wants to talk about tax credits, yes, we will offer tax credits for clean electricity because that is good for all Canadians, including Quebecers.
Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, friendship centres are lifelines for Indigenous people in urban communities, providing food, housing, safety, culture, and belonging. The urban Indigenous population is growing rapidly, and friendship centres are already stretched past the breaking point. Their core funding runs out in March. Budget 2025 offered nothing. Without stable, permanent funding, programs will be cut and doors will close. This is not reconciliation. It is abandonment. When will this government commit to renewing this critical funding to support Indigenous peoples with long-term, secure and stable funding?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Indigenous Services.
Mr. Speaker, we put Indigenous children, families and essential services first. This new government is innovating to better serve Canadians by improving efficiencies and coordinating across all departments. But the federal government has a distinct duty to Indigenous people and a key opportunity to strengthen a renewed, respectful relationship. That's why the priority in Budget 2025 is to protect critical services like water, housing and infrastructure in community, and to ensure that changes made strengthen service delivery.
Here, here. Et ça met fin à la période.
This concludes question period for today.
Alors,